Hello students and welcome to the lecture. So students, as we know that we are covering the financial knowledge and the banking awareness part of it. And basically, we had started the discussion over the Securities and Exchange Board of India, right? And we had covered the several facts and figures related with the topic in the previous lecture. In this lecture, we are going to continue with the same topic and we will have a discussion over the CB, but we will discuss the other facts and figures. Okay. So I hope that you revised the previous lecture already so that you can connect themselves with the things properly. Okay. So with this note, let's start this lecture. So now in this lecture, we are going to start with the functions and powers of the SEBI. Like what are the functions of the SEBI and what are the powers granted to the SEBI. Okay, so let's start with the functions. The first is the functions. Okay, first function is regulation and oversight. SEBI regulates and supervises various entities in the security markets, including the stock exchanges, brokers, sub-brokers, depository participants, and the other market intermediaries. Ensures compliance with the regulatory provisions, adherence to the ethical standards, and maintenance of the market integrity. It is the first thing. Okay. Second is promoting fair and transparent practices. Promotes and enforces fair and transparent practices in the security markets, establishes codes of conduct, ethical guidelines, and disclosures norms for the market participants. As we had discussed, that if the two participants are participating for the one company, then it is to be ensured that both get the same treatment. It should not be done that the one is promising the high returns and the second one is promising the low returns even on the same share. If this is happening, it means that it is a unethical practices because there is a case of inequality. And under the SEBI, it is banned or restricted. Okay. Thereafter, the investors' protection safeguards investors' interest, ensures the accurate and timely information about securities and issuing companies, enforces regulation to prevent insider trading and fraudulent scheme. So we can say, suppose this is the company XYZ. Okay. And if we having the three investors, Mr. A, Mr. B, and Mr. C. Okay. So SEBI ensures that the XYZ is providing the same and the accurate information to all of them. Okay. As we had discussed in the previous lecture, that Mr. A is promised 20%, Mr. B is promised 15%, and Mr. C is only promised 10%. Okay. It means that the information is inaccurate. Okay. And second is a timely. Timely means suppose if again we have the three shareholders A, B, and C. Okay. The company is going to launch the shares. This information has been informed to Mr. A in the month of January. Mr. B and C get to know about it in the month of March. Okay. So we can say Mr. A will get the edge because he is getting the information about how much shares has been released, what is the promising interest rate, okay, and what are the other terms and conditions. So he could plan the things accordingly before B and C will even start it because B and C getting the information in the March, whereas A getting the information in the January. All right. So that's why the timely information is also an important principle. Okay. So that all of these get the information at the same time so that they could plan the things accordingly. Okay. Thereafter, about the issuing companies, it means the accurate information about the issuing companies. Okay. So suppose A, B, and C. All of these three are getting the information about the XYZ. Okay. They must be getting the information from the intermediary. Intermediaries are the person maybe the broker, sub-broker, or maybe the credit rating agencies who is providing these information to all of three people. Okay. So suppose the intermediary is misleading the information. The intermediary is showing the 50 crores profit, but in actual, there is a 50 crores loss. So is this information accurate? No. This information is a false information and this is a misleading information. Okay. That's why it is ensured by the SEBI that the investors who is investing their money or who is getting the stakes in a particular organization must get a proper and accurate information. Thereafter, enforces regulations to prevent insider trading and fraudulent scheme. Insider trading, about it, I had already told you. Let's move forward. Thereafter, development of the security market as per the new inventions due to the dynamic nature of the market. And second is making innovation for the customer behavior and for the prevention of the fraudulent activities. As I had provided you example, if someone has become a behavioral with some practice so that he could use it in the negative way. All right. So that if the CB makes the regular changes in a particular thing, this will prevent a person to become a habitual to it. And this will eventually leads that person won't be able to make some fraudulent use of that particular practice. Okay. So SEBI plays a crucial role in developing the securities market in India, encourages innovation with new financial instruments and trading platforms. Thereafter, we have regulation of mutual funds. Okay, about mutual funds, we had discussed that there are 10 people who invested rupees 1 lakh each. Then we get a fund manager who will invest this money in particular area on behalf of them and will earn the, you can say, return. And he will get his commission and the remaining will be distributed to the persons as per their share. Okay. So SEBI tries to regulate the mutual fund. It means that it ensures that the fund manager or the party who is going to manage the fund on behalf of the depositor must be capable to ensure that the depositor will get the profit. Okay. So SEBI regulates the mutual fund industry, prescribed rules and guidelines for mutual funds, professional and transparent management. All right. Regulation of takeovers and the mergers, overseas corporate takeovers and mergers, prescribed rules for open offers, disclosures, pricing methods, etc. to protect the minority shareholders. It means that suppose if A and B, they decided to merge or A decided to get takeover B. In both the scenarios, they have to provide the accurate information or the timely information to all their shareholders, whether the existed ones or the new ones. And secondly, whether the shareholders are the larger or the minority. Okay. So this is the function of the SEBI to ensure that they are adhering themselves to that regulation. Okay. Thereafter, regulation of intermediaries establishes criteria and codes of conduct for intermediaries like the stock brokers and the merchant bankers, ensures integrity and competence in the market. Okay. After finishing the functions, now we have the powers of the SEBI. The first is that investigative powers. Authority to conduct investigations into securities matter or securities market matters. Okay. Inquires into market manipulation, insider trading, and securities law violation. Suppose this is the person, this is the company XYZ, and this is the another person. This person is the intermediator. This person is the investor. Okay. So investor complained that he was promised 20% by the intermediary, but the company is only providing the 10%. Okay. So it means that there is a case of misinformation which had been transmitted to the investors while sale of the share. Okay. So if the investor complain this matter to the SEBI that this particular company XYZ was promised 20% through the intermediator, but now only offer the 10%. So the SEBI will launch an investigation in that case. All right. Similarly, if we take another type of example, so suppose we have the A, B, and C. This is the company XYZ. Okay. So A get the information about the company in the month of January, whereas B and C come to know about in the month of March. Okay. So it means that there is a case of internal trading. Because XYZ is going to launch the shares, this information has been leaked to Mr. A by someone from insider. Okay. So this is the case of internal trading. And if B and C claims this, that the A was already aware about this thing, then they could also reach the SEBI. Okay. And the SEBI will launch the investigation in that particular matter. Okay. So it is the first power that it's having the authority to conduct the investigations into the securities market matters. Second, inquires into market manipulation, insider trading, and securities laws violations. Okay. Thereafter, imposing penalties. Can impose penalties and sanctions on violations of securities regulation. Penalties includes fine, suspension, or revocation of licenses and market participation bans. Okay. So if we go by the first example where the XYZ through is intermediary promised a 20% return to the investor. Okay. But now only providing the 10% interest rate. Okay. So if SEBI finds out during the investigation or the inquiry that the investor is claiming the right thing, it means the XYZ manipulates the facts or shared the wrong information with the investor to the intermediary, then the SEBI could impose the penalties on the XYZ. Maybe some monetary fine, okay, maybe the ban or the revocation of the license. And not only on the XYZ, but also the intermediary will be responsible for it because he is also comes under the regulation standard of the SEBI and he has violated the laws. Okay. Similar thing we could take in the example of another one, which is the example of A, B, and C. This is the company XYZ. Okay. So if the A was already aware about the things in the month of January and the B and C will get to know about it in the month of March. So if the SEBI finds out the information is correct, that A got the information prior to the B and C or prior to the public domain, then SEBI will impose the fine on both, on the A as well as on the XYZ. Okay. So this is the second power. Thereafter, surveillance and inspection. Conduct surveillance and inspection of stock exchange and intermediaries on the regular basis to find out that whether they are following the proper regulations and not. Okay. It ensures their compliance with the regulatory provisions and could ensure the safety and transparency. All right. Thereafter, issuing regulation and the circulars. It can issue the regulation and the circulars for the security markets, covers listing requirements, disclosure norms, market conduct, and the investors' protection. Because SEBI is the only regulatory authority of stock exchange. Only regulatory authority. So that's why it's a power and the responsibility of SEBI to frames out the required rules and regulations and also to circulate the various circulars covers the information about the listing requirements, about the disclosure of norms, about the market conducts, and about the investors protection. Adjudication adjudicates cases of security law violations, can order disgorgement of gains and impose penalties. It means that whenever SEBI launches the investigation, it acquires powers of civil court. Okay. And the SEBI's decision could be challenged where its decision could be challenged in SAT. Okay. SAT stands for Securities Appellate Tribunal. Alright. If someone who is not satisfied with the decision which has been taken by the SEBI could challenge this particular decision with the SAT within the 90 days. Okay. So suppose if the SEBI declared the decision in the month of January, so the person could file the case in SAT till March only. If he will go to the SAT in the month of April, after the completion of the 90 days, the SAT will not take up the case because he has completed the time limit provided by the SEBI Bank. Okay. Thereafter, we have a listing and delisting powers. Authority to approve listing on stock exchange prescribes regulation for listing and delisting of the securities. What do you mean by the listing and the delisting? So basically, if any company wants to launches the shares to general people, all right, in such a scenario, the company has to listed itself with SEBI. All right. Then only the company will be allowed to launch the shares to the general people. Okay. This is the criteria. And no longer the company will be the private limited. The company will become only limited. So remember this thing. If the company wants to launch the shares for the general people, it has to list it itself with the SEBI, and the company will be renamed from the private limited to the limited only. All right. So this is the listing. Delisting is basically revocation of company rights to launch shares in stock or securities market for general people. Okay. It means that the SEBI, when finds out that the particular company which had been granted a power of listing, suppose we can say in the year of 2001, XYZ Private Limited listed itself with the SEBI, and the company will become XYZ Limited. Okay. But in the year of 2005, the SEBI finds out that the XYZ Limited was violating the law, and the crime committed by the XYZ Limited was a severe category. Okay. So in this year, XYZ will be delisting by the SEBI, which means that no longer the XYZ is allowed to attract the shares from the general people, or they could launch their shares to the general people. Okay. because no longer they are the part of the stock market. Okay, thereafter we have the market surveillance. Conducts market surveillance to detect and prevent the irregularities, takes corrective actions to maintain the market integrity. All right. Market intermediary regulation. It is very, very important because the investors oftenly meets up the intermediaries while involving themselves into the share market or the stock market. So it is to be ensured generally that these intermediaries must be capable of providing the accurate and timely information. Okay, because if they are misleading the information, the investors will get the misleading information. All right, so it is necessary to regulate some market intermediaries, grants or revokes license and ensures compliance with the standards. Okay, so SEBI's functions and powers are critically maintain the integrity and transparency of the India security markets, protecting investors' interest and ensuring the adherence to the ethical and regulatory standards. It is the key authorities in India's financial market because, as I have told you, it is the one and only apex body in the stock market exchange. Okay. Thereafter, if we talk about the initiatives and reforms by the SEBI, first is the dematerialization of the securities. Initiated conversion of physical share certificates to electronic form, reduce risk associated with the physical certificates, streamline trading and the settlement processes. Okay. So we can say right now the SEBI is focused on the digitalization of share certificate so that it could not only be preserved well but could be seen easily whenever it's required. Okay. Thereafter, promotion of depository system, promoted establishment and regulation of depositories like NSDL and the CDSL. It facilitated the electronic trading and settlement, reducing paperwork and the fraud risk. Okay, because it's everything on the digitalization. Is everything is doing by the you can say digital form. Then it promotes the surveillance category or surveillance capacity. All right, because right now the CB could access any file, access any account easily from anywhere. Okay, so it promotes the fraud risk and also it reduces the paperwork. Okay, so we can say it is the faster process. All right. Okay, now we have the introduction of the KYC norms. KYC stands for Know Your Customer. Implemented Know Your Customer norms to enhance due diligence, required investors to provide personal and the financial information, reducing fraud risk. Okay, so we can say if the company is XYZ, the XYZ is required to conduct the KYC for the investors. Okay, it means that the company XYZ must have a financial and the personal details of the investors so that it could be ensured that there must be no case of black money and money laundering. All right. Okay. Thereafter, we have the strengthening insider trading regulations, improved insider trading regulations for fair and transparent market practices, introduced guidelines for insider trading disclosure, expanded connected persons definition. Okay, so that everyone gets a equal and fair treatment. Thereafter, listing obligations and the disclosure requirements, mandated listed companies to disclose critical information, required financial results, corporate governance practices, and shareholding patterns disclosure. Okay, so suppose if this is a company we call XYZ and the XYZ is a listed company, what does it mean? It means the XYZ is allowed to take out the shares, right, from the public. So it is important that the XYZ should release the accurate information timely in the market, so that the stakeholders or the investors who have been involved with the XYZ must have a clear cut knowledge what is going inside the XYZ. Okay, so that's why the SEBI provides the listing obligations and also asks the companies to disclose the required information. Okay, thereafter, corporate governance reforms. Introduce reforms like separating chairman and the managing director roles, appointing independent directors. Aim to enhance corporate management and the governance equality. About all of these means the chairman of board of directors. About it we had already discussed. Okay, what was the roles and responsibilities of the managing directors? Okay, and also about the appointment and the meaning of the independent directors. We will have the discussion over then in the upcoming lecture of corporate governance. Till then, just revise that this is being monitored by the SEBI. Okay, and it is one of the initiative of the SEBI. All right, aim to enhance corporate management and the governance quality. Thereafter, regulation of the credit rating agencies. Why? Because these are the one of the intermediary. Okay, regulated credit rating agencies to ensure accurate, transparent debt instrument assessment. Required high standards and transparency in the ratings. Suppose we can say this is the XYZ company. This is the agency. Okay, and this is the depositor. So the ABC showing 8.9% out of the scale of 10% as a rating of XYZ. Okay, so it is a very, very impressive rating. So the investor, by seeing this rating, will invest the money in XYZ. But in reality, the rating must be about only 5.9% out of 10% due to the current situation of XYZ. So in this case, this is the case of misleading information. Because instead of showing 5.9%, it is showing the 8.9%. So this is the case of misleading information. That's why it is the initiative of the SEBI to regulate the credit rating agencies to maintain the high standards and the transparency in the ratings. And even if the credit rating agencies giving the 8.9% to the company XYZ, so on what basis? What were the provisions which were being undertaken by these agency while formulating the ratings must be disclosed to the investor, so that the investors could have a clear-cut idea. Okay, on that basis, this rating has been granted to this particular company. All right. Regulation of mutual funds. It is also the initiative of the SEBI. Introduce reforms in the mutual fund industry. Example, risk-based NAV calculation and the scheme categorization, so that the person who is investing the money in the mutual fund must have a clear-cut understanding about the return he will receive and on which scheme his money is being invested. Okay, so that he could manage the risk and the other things as well. Aimed to protect the investor interest and provide the investment clarity. Okay, thereafter, SEBI, Alternative Investment Funds Regulation. Introduce the regulation for alternative investment funds, aim to foster innovation and diversify investment options. Okay, so suppose if this is the person who is investing more in the company A. Okay, suppose he is having rupees 10 lakhs and he has invested this in company A. So is this risky or not? It is risky. Why? Because he has put his entire capital into the one company or one entity. Okay. So if company A fails to do well, it means that person may have to bear the losses of rupees 10 lakh. Okay. But if this person gets the option of company A, company B, and company C, still having he has 10 lakh rupees. So instead of putting the amount into the single company, he has managed the amount well in the other companies so that it will be a less risky situation. Because now this person has diversified his portfolio or the investment. So alternative investment funds is also the one of the most significant initiative of the SEBI. Okay. Thereafter, introduction of REITs and the NVTs, introduce real estate investment trust and infrastructure investment trust, allowed investment in real estate and the infrastructure projects with the accurate and timely information. Okay. Thereafter, electronic initial public offering IPO, introduce electronic IPOs enabling online applications, increase IPO market accessibility and the efficiency. What do you mean by the IPO? Let me tell you. Suppose this is a company XYZ. Okay. Company XYZ. And this is a private company. Now, if this is a private company, it means only its members could could invest in this company. Okay. But after some time, it is listed under SEBI. Okay. And now it's become a XYZ, but public company. Okay. So for this process, they have to launch the shares. Okay. The shares will determine the amount they are required from the public. Suppose they had issued 10 shares initially at rupees 10 lakh each share. Okay. So total amount required by them is rupees 1 crore. All right. And when they will launch the shares for the first time for the people, because prior to this, they were the private company and the shares were only available for the members. But when they listed, it means now they can invite the general people to invest in their company. So for the first time when they will launch the shares, that will be the IPO or the initial public offering. It means for the first time they had launched the shares and the amount of which the shares have been launched. Like for rupees 1 crore, they had launched the 10 shares at rupees 10 lakh each. Okay. So this rupees 1 crore will be the IPO amount. Rupees 1 crore will be the IPO amount. Okay. So this is the concept of IPO. When any private company listed itself in the stock exchange and launches the shares for the first time to the general people, it is the condition of IPO. Okay. And for this, there is lots of formality and the paperwork required. All right. But SEBI has introduced a electronic IPO. It means that through the process of digitalization or through the internet, all these processes could be done electronically so that on the faster basis, the IPO could be launched. Okay. So this increased the IPO market accessibility and the efficiency because now most of the companies could launch their IPOs in a short duration of time. All right. Thereafter, initiative to promote startups. Introduce Innovators Growth Platform (IGP) for startups and the SME listings. encourage entrepreneurship and the innovation. It means that if someone establishes its company and wants to get a funding from the people, in such scenario, he could opt for the innovators growth platform, in which the SEBI will assist the particular company for getting the investment or the funds from the investors of stock market. Okay. Thereafter, implementation of the market surveillance system, invested in advanced market surveillance systems for trading activities monitoring, aim to maintain the market integrity and the transparency. Thereafter, regulation of algorithmic trading, introduce guidelines for algorithmic trading, introduce risk control mechanism and circuit breakers. All right. Thereafter, listing of Indian companies abroad, introduce depository receipt scheme for international listings, expanded global reach of the Indian businesses. Okay. Thereafter, prohibition of insider trading via WhatsApp and the social media, issued guidelines to prevent insider trading through social medias, established whistleblower mechanism. Okay. Thereafter, initiatives to promote sustainability reporting, encourage ESG performance reporting, business responsibility reporting, promoted corporate responsibility and the sustainability. Okay. So students, these are the some more details about the SEBI which we had discussed. Okay. In the next lecture, we will continue with the SEBI because some of the more details and important details which could be discussed more depthly than these details which we have covered so far, because they are not so required to be discussed. Okay. So that I had just read them for you. But I request you kindly go through these topics properly and revise them well. Then only you will be able to grasp the facts and figures properly. Okay. So with this note, let's end this lecture and meet you in the another lecture. Okay. Thank you.